Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
Benji and Ron, your marathoners, Craig, you ran a 2:10. Do you think Connor Mance's 2:05 at Boston? I thought that was a spectacular race.
It definitely was.
But do you think it's in the shoes? How much did the shoes give him? 2 minutes?
I think it gives him more like 3. The thing about Connor, and it may even do more, you look at Connor's running style. Connor's a prancer. He's in the air a lot, and he's running hard a lot. And I think if he were running in the shoes we were running in, he'd have beat the crap out of himself at the marathon. He'd have been a 10K to half marathon guy, and he wouldn't have been. He might have been able to change his stride, etc. But I don't think he would have been successful in our day as a marathoner. I think he'd have been injured a lot.
He's very light, though.
Well, he is, but still, I mean, Tabb was very light, and he didn't bounce a lot.
Ron, were you a shuffler or were you a bouncer?
I don't know that I was a bouncer. I definitely wasn't a bouncer. Probably not even really a shuffler. I had a really smooth stride. Going back and look at my form, and it was very efficient. Not really sure how to.
But you just was a steady, smooth runner, and I was too. I mean, I wasn't a bouncer or a shuffler. I just ran steady. Where Connor looks like he's running all out the whole time. I mean, he doesn't look like he's. I think he's a great runner, and I'm glad he's an American. But at the same time, I don't think that kind of running form is conducive to running 2+ hours.
But Benji, he's the only American. We didn't race a ton of high altitude born East Africans.
We had the Paul Cummings and Ed Stone and what's his name, the 5,000 meter runner. Doug Padilla. I mean, they were there, but I don't think the altitude is the only reason they were good. I think they were, that was part of it.
Yeah, but
remember, Paul Cummings started at the mile.
Yeah.
My freshman year in college,
yeah,
Paul Cummings upset Tony Waldrop in the NCAA championships in the mile at Austin, Texas, when it was like 92 degrees that night. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody was gauging off of Tony because Tony had run a bunch of sub 4-minute miles indoors that year.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was favoring Tony Waldrop. He ran for North Carolina, I think. Am I right?
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And Paul Cummings, I don't know whether Paul got out early and got away, and then they never could run him down. But Paul had a good kick.
Oh yeah,
I know because he ran me down in the LA Olympic trials in '84. He passed me and he beat me in the 10,000 final of the Olympic trials in '84 on a kick.
Oh,
he ran like 58 at the end of a 10. That was no Gabriel Selassie, but it still was very good.
What did you run that day?
I think I either was just under 28. I think I was just under 28.
Okay.
And he beat me by a second or two. And the guy that came in third that day was Pat Porter. Oh. And the guy that came in fourth, you would know him, Bill, because it was Gary Bjorklund.
Oh yeah.
You and he hooked up in 76 in the 10,000.
Yeah.
And I was in second, trying desperately to hang on to Frank that last lap.
Yeah.
And the crowd was going nuts. And I thought, oh my God, somebody's catching me.
Yeah.
And I pumped, and finally off the last turn, I looked back behind and I had a gap. What it was, Gary Bjorklund, who only had one spike on, caught up with you in that last lap. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. He passed me by a half a second or something. But
so
Craig, he made the Olympic final at 10,000.
Yes, he did that year. He ran better at the games than what I did. Okay.
And you were in '84. Your trials time was 28:02:27.
28:02. Okay. And you know what? I wasn't having a very good year.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, when I made that team in '84, that probably was a better accomplishment than the other two because I wasn't shooting with a full magazine in my gun. Okay.
Yeah.
I had to run smart. It was not a Craig Virgin race, and I had to react. I had to time everything perfectly. And I was just very fortunate as I had a bad left knee by then. I was just very fortunate to make that.
I will say this about Paul, though. He could be beaten at the end of a marathon.
At the end of a marathon, yes. Maybe even at the end of a half marathon.
But at the end of a marathon, Nike OTC in '82, we hit the track. You know, you run the last 200 on the track. We hit the track. He was like 2 meters ahead of me. I beat him by 2 seconds.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
It was sort of, oh my God, this guy's a miler. I gotta go.
But the range, he had great range.
Oh yeah, he had terrific range. He was
like Rod
extremely
Dixon,
talented.
you know.
Well, probably one of the guys that had the biggest range that I ran against was Nick Rose. Nick Rose could run 147 or 146 for 800. And of course, he could do sub 28 for the 10,000. I don't know. I know he ran marathons at the end of his career, but Nick Rose was just one of the most talented runners and one of the toughest competitors that I ever faced anywhere. College, out of college. And so many times the two of us ended up very close to each other at the end of the race. We were like steel and magnet. We just attracted each other in the last third of a race.
And that is bringing him up. I remember you as because of your company's name as the front runner, but then I can't remember what cross country championships it was, but Nick went out and just disappeared away from you guys, and you ran him down eventually.
And that was the cross country trials, and in Louisville.
No, I'm thinking the World Cross Country, wasn't it?
Yes.
World Cross Country Championships.
In 1980.
Watching the video.
Yeah, and so what were you thinking when he got away like that?
Never give up, never give up, never give up.
Yeah.
And my whole goal then, with 2 laps to go, so there's about 3 miles to go, I finally had caught up the lead pack at the 4 mile. I got out terrible because I slipped and fell at the start. Oh no, they shot the gun off. And I was the captain. We had a false start, and I was trying to get my guys in the box lined up right. And I had the guy didn't say ready, set, and go. He just said ready and then just shot the gun. And I literally tried to turn around and pivot and got knocked down. And one of the guys grabbed my shorts, and that kept me from going flat on my face. Thank God the elastic brake. And I was only at the kilometer. I was probably 60th or 70th. It wasn't as bad as Limerick the year before, but I almost gave up because there was a mass humanity in front of me. But I had to work my way up the track like a NASCAR driver that has a restart. And I had to work my way to the field. And I didn't get up there till 4 miles to the back of the lead pack. And then I got up to the lead pack. And then Nick was way out there by almost 100 yards, it seemed. And all I could do was figure out whether I was going to go after him or stay in the safety and security of the lead pack. And that was one of what I do a speech on this called Moments of Truth. I'm a believer that in every race, there's a moment of truth for you in the race, sometimes several, where you have to face a question. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I give up? Do I find a way to hang in there? And there's a moment of truth. And I had 3 distinct, maybe 4 distinct moments of truth in that race. And all I know, with 2 laps to go, I knew that to catch him, I had to have a tempo faster than him. So I was watching his legs turn over, and I was and he was a bounder. His kickback, I still have spike marks up on my quad from running behind him where he would spike me in the indoor track meets. Okay. High on if not on my quad, certainly high on my shin, because his kickback was so
a high back kick.
And his back kick. Okay. Good kickback, back kick, but same thing. But I just knew that I had to have a quicker tempo, and I eventually used the whole 1.5 mile loop to come back within 10 to 15 yards of him. And my goal was to latch onto him and then figure out what to do with him. It was almost like grabbing a tomcat and figure out, what am I going to do? But he looked back behind him with, like, at the gun. They shot a rocket back in those days, a rocket that they'd shoot off in Paris. And he saw me, and he just took off. And he put like another 10 or 20 yards on me in the next 200. And I just was really demoralized. And I all I could do, the 3rd and 4th place guys were coming up. And when they got up to me, all I could do was force myself to stay with them and not fall behind them. I forced myself to stay with them. And over the next 400 or 500 yards, I recovered. And then it was, okay, I'm going to keep pushing the pace. And that's how we finally worked him back up. But Nick paid for that early move by dying a little bit in the last 200 to 400 yards. Even a guy as smart as Nick.
Yeah, the enthusiasm in your leading world cross country is mind-boggler. But that you passed, I think, Hans-Jürgen Orthman, German, there as well.
The last 10 yards. Yes.
Yeah, so you had a real dual kind of a race, and then you had a real dual kind of a race. And this is what I like about cross country. It's so unique and so Mother Nature, and gritty and luck of the day almost too. But Craig, you and Pat Porter, Salazar, the best cross country runners on the American side, on the men's side, Who are the best women now? Lynn Jennings, of course, with 3 gold medals.
Well, that Valby girl from Florida that now is running for New Balance,
which may or may not be where she continues. There's rumors she's going to move and train with a group here in Boulder.
Did you think that was a fit mate in heaven when she went to Boston?
No, I didn't. I don't really know who she should be with, but I thought that was going to be too much stress for him. But before we leave Nick, I did go and check. He's a 2:21:10 marathoner. In fact, anything beyond a half marathon, he begins to slow down.
Yeah. Really? I thought he ran 2:10 or 2:11 somewhere.
No, 2:21:10 is his PR.
He certainly ran a faster 800 than I ever did because I saw him at the Drake Relays split like 146, 147. And I don't think any of us, I mean, the fastest I ever ran was like 152.
Yeah, I'm only 4 seconds slower than you. I'm 156.
And Bill, did you ever run a half mile in high school or college, Bill?
My best was 2 flat in college. I just didn't train for it, but I don't think I have the fast twitch enough, really.
Right. And Ron, you're not on the screen, so we don't want to forget you.
I ran 153 in college.
Good for you.
He's the stud out of this group.
Well, Ron, did you, even though you were more diminutive in size and height, did you have good turnover? Did you have good turnover back then?
I did, yeah. It was during around 75 that I started having aspirations of trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. But my only aspiration was to try and qualify for the marathon. I was inspired by 72, what Frank did in Munich. And I thought that if there was any chance of ever qualifying for the trials, it would probably be at a longer distance. I knew that, the shorter distances, 153, but cut isn't going to cut it. I wasn't going to be a 1,500 mile, 1,500 guy. And so I just had a guy by the name of Bob Busby that I was our assistant coach, who was 11th at the Olympic trials in 76. And I knew training with him, at least I felt confident with training with him that I could possibly, run under 220 and qualify for the trials in 80.
Well, Ron, you ran for
I don't think I was trained properly early on, but I didn't have my first cross country race until I was a sophomore in college because I only ran 2 years in high school, didn't have a cross country program. And then my freshman year, I was injured with shin splints. I didn't run track or cross country my freshman year.
So Ron, what did Dellinger do to help you so much? I saw your comments about Bill Dellinger.
No. Yeah, Bill, if I'd have had him early in my career, I was just fortunate to have him in my career period, able to, see what my full potential was.
So he psychologically was a big support.
Lost a couple of good ones recently.
Who else have we lost? Joe Vigil?
Yes, and Dellinger. Those are the ones he's talking about.
Yeah.
But I got to know Joe Vigil because, go ahead, Ron, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no. I was just saying we lost a couple of good ones here in the last couple of months. So
you're going to tell us about your relationship with Vigil.
Well, I met Vigil for the first time the first year that Pat Porter ran the trials, and that could have been 83. I'm thinking it was 83 because I hosted the trials. I'm the only guy, so are any of you guys baseball fans?
I'm not. I'm a Royals fan.
Okay, well, let me say this. Back in the 20s, 30s, or 40s, it wasn't unusual. No, it wasn't rare to have a guy be a player manager, okay? He'd play out in the game on the field, but he was also the manager. And that kind of went away in the 40s and 50s, maybe even the 40s. And so in 80, I was so mad in 82 at the trials that they put on in Pocatello, Idaho for the conditions. And I said, screw this. I'm going to put those damn trials on myself. And I went in and bid for them. That way, back then, you only had to bid a year in advance. You didn't have to bid 2 or 3 years out. And I got them. And then I had to raise the money. And then when I didn't have enough money, I put my own money into it. But I was a player manager in that an hour. I organized the race, planned everything out, did everything, got the money, got the volunteers, did the media. And then an hour before the race, handed the thing off to my 3 lieutenants and said, now I'm going to go warm up. Don't bother me unless there's a real emergency. Okay. And I went to the starting line and And I was getting married like in 2 weeks. I mean, I did too many things that winter. I did too many things that February and March. But I went to the line, and Alberto was at his prime back then. And this was February of 82. So he was on a real roll from 81 to 82, even to 83. And he ended up, we had a real duel, and he ended up getting away from me with 1.5 miles to go. And I finished second to him, but oh my God, did I beat a hell of a good field. And I organized the race, and I organized the award ceremony, and I did all that stuff.
And this was in Pocatello?
Great.
No, this was because of Pocatello. I did it at SIU, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, which had a big rural campus with a lot of fields, and a lot of it's developed now. You couldn't do the same course, but I organized it there, and they also had a ballroom that we could do the award ceremony in, and I was able to get National Guard to bring in tents for the athletes, in case it was bad weather. Mm-hmm. And ended up being like 69 or 70 degrees that day, and we'd had snow just a week earlier.
And so where was this?
SIU. Edwardsville, which is near me. Okay. It's the campus is only 20 minutes from downtown St. Louis. Okay. And it's only 20 minutes from where I live. So I really did get a lot of support there. And it was a campus that was built out in the country, and then Edwardsville has grown up to it. But I organize, I'm the only guy I know that both organized and hosted a world cross country trials and ran in it at the same time. And I only got beat by one guy, and that was Alberto at his finest. And
good story.
And then to add to the story, I got married the week before the World Championships, and we went to the Adidas headquarters in Germany for our honeymoon. And then we went to the race was in, oh my gosh, I should know that. The race was in the UK somewhere. And they put me in the bridal suite. Sandy and I stayed in the bridal suite of this castle that we stayed at. So I was in a 4-poster bed, okay, with all this tapestry. And so I was on my honeymoon. How many other guys take a U.S. cross country team with them on their honeymoon? Not many.
That's an awesome story.
But let me say this about Sandy, my first wife, is that she was a real trooper. She adopted running, so she was my wife in 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. So she went, every one of my cross country teams, she went along, and she would do things for the guys. She'd take pictures during the race so they'd have photos of their race, and she would help watch their bags, make sure their shoes got to them. She was almost like, I called her our 10th man. Back then we had 9 guys to a team, and Sandy was our 10th man. And she knew the guys. She knew what they needed. She knew what they wanted. So she would help take care of them. She was older than a lot of them. And she, by that time I was the senior member of the team, and she would help take care of them at the World Championships. And she'd also see them at the trials. So she was on a first name basis with most of the top distance runners in America. And let me just say this, back then, because of Bill's effort in 78 and 79 maybe, and then what I started doing then is we really recruited ourselves some of the best runners in America to come out for the U.S. cross country team. And that maybe happened all the way through 88, maybe 90. But after that, we were hard pressed to ever get our best guys to come out.
And we're still having that problem. Our cross country teams are still weaker than they should be.
All right, so next January, the World Cross Country Championships are in Tallahassee. What are we doing about getting our best guys there?
We're not doing much that I can see.
Greg, are you coming down to Tallahassee for the meet?
I don't even know who to contact.
Well, you'd have to make your own plans. I don't think there's going to be an organization for you to try to get, invited. I think you're going to have to plan on your own. Herb Wills has probably got something to do with it down there too, and I could ask him.
Well, there's got to be a guy that's a meet director, but they really should bring back. So what American men, myself, Pat Porter, Alberto has been third. Have we ever had any other top 3 or 4 guys?
He took a silver.
Bill should be there.
Yeah.
He took a silver. Alberto did.
He what?
He got second one year.
Yeah.
Yes, that was in Rome.
Yeah.
That was the year I was in the hospital in Germany.
Yep.
So Alberto should be there unless because of his penalties, they don't want to have him there.
I would think that's probably
Dina Castor and Shalane and Lynn Jennings.
Well, Lynn, of course, won twice. 3 times or twice? Did Lynn Jennings win twice or 3 times?
3.
Doris Brown Heritage.
Yes. So, would Lynn, you guys know Lynn better than I do. I know she's a bit of a hermit. Would she consider coming down to the World Championships in Tallahassee if she was asked?
I think she would.
I think it would be great to have her because there are a lot of people don't have a clue who she is, and I think it would be great to get that history out there.
Absolutely.
That Nike poster of her and Pat covered in mud.
Yep.
World cross country specialist.
Yep.
I mean, that's just an iconic poster.
Right.
She went across in Boston in the snow. I believe she's up in Maine now. And but I know Lynn a little bit. Super nice person. Probably our country's best in mainstream, very high level world cross country. And she's like Joan in the marathon there for a long time, and with Nike. And I saw that Foot Locker is folding their cards in regards to cross country in high school. And now maybe Nike can take a stronger stand.
Well, but you also have New Balance has the cross country. I mean, it was getting diluted already.
What's that?
New Balance also has a cross country championship. So you had 3 high school cross country championships. Yeah.
I'm not aware of the New Balance championship.
It wasn't as well known, but it's out there. And Foot Locker may lose the name and become something else in the same course. I mean, I know there's some effort out there among a few people to try to, get different sponsorship and keep the thing going. But cross country in this country is the root of our distance runners. And I didn't run cross country in high school because I didn't have a team, and then Georgie couldn't run cross country without a team. But I ran it. That was my better sport in college. I was a better cross country runner than I was a track runner. And I think that is sort of the basis of me becoming a good distance runner.
Ron, you're not on the screen, but can you tell us, did you do cross country your last 2 years of college?
No, I was a D2 All-American twice. The highest I finished was 6th my senior year, or my 5th year of college, my senior year.
And did you ever run the U.S. cross country trials?
I never tried. After college, I only ran 2 more cross country. I was a road racer.
Okay.
Occasionally I would step on the track, but for the most part, I specialized in the marathon.
Well,
I was smart enough to realize that was where my strengths were.
Well, let me ask you about this. You said you could run a 150. How much? 51?
53.
Yeah, it was 153. I had really good leg speed. But the problem was I didn't realize that I trained by myself, coached myself for 6 years. It wasn't until I started working with Dillinger that I really saw what I was hitting. I ran some pretty fast times. I was 4th at the trial with a 2:12. Training, basically, training alone in Houston. Again, talking about the heat and humidity and that simulating altitude training. Went to Buffalo and Benji. That's where he was 2nd. He was training in Atlanta with those sweatsuits. But I pretty much gave up the track and cross country after college.
Well, I was going to ask you because I found that when I started training for the marathon, I definitely feel like I lost my mile speed and my half mile speed. I'm dating myself by saying mile and half mile instead of 800 and 1500 meters. But I really feel like when you start to train for the half marathon and up, you lose some of that knee lift and that ankle pop, to come off the ground in that faster tempo and cadence, because you can't do that when you're training 15 to 20 mile runs and when you're doing that high mileage. And I felt like in 81, when I got 2nd at Boston, it took me almost 6 to 8 weeks to get my turnover back again after Boston. Of course, Boston beat my quads up terribly when I ran out of gas the last 2 miles and I hit the wall and I'm going down that hill and I'm just slapping the ground.
Yeah.
Bill knows that.
Well, I know it too.
Bill, I never saw you ever hit the wall. I never saw you hit the wall. Never.
Well, you mean during the race? That's because you were gone. You turned at around, I don't know what mile mark, maybe 10 miles, and Seiko had broken away. And you said to me, "Can he keep that up?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah, and I was talking about Myers. Myers was the one that broke away at 16 miles.
Oh, he was?
I said, I know he's training with you. I said, is he that? Because I respected Greg Meyer and Herb Lindsay from racing against them in the Big Ten. Yeah. I knew what they were capable of.
Yeah.
I knew I was damn lucky to have beat those guys in the Big Ten.
Yeah, yeah.
I asked you, but then Seiko was watching you and me. Seiko was like a Japanese zero fighter. He was just hanging behind us.
Yeah.
He just had us in his gun sight.
He always raced that way. And he very rarely lost. This
right.
guy,
and you know what?
Marathon.
Did he not have the best poker face in the game? I mean, there was no emotion in his face.
Yeah. He's having fun.
I call him a samurai. He was.
I don't know if I can say. I don't know that he ever really had fun. He was very intent, and fun would require that you smile occasionally. I don't think I ever saw him smile.
He was a very good 800-meter guy, by the way.
Oh yeah, he was an extremely talented runner. He ran 50 miles faster than almost anybody else has ever done.
He would come on the track at Fukuoka and defeat Yuma Kanga, whoever was there, if you were with him at the end. So he had some real speed as well, you know.
He had turnover.
But I got to know him later. He was really a great guy. He's a good guy.
Let me tell you this. In the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, I met an interpreter, and I set up a lunch with Seiko and I.
Wow.
And we had a lunch, and I had an interpreter there to help me communicate because he didn't speak English and I didn't speak Japanese.
Yeah.
But he was very kind to me. Yeah. But here's the funny part was I showed up in a Toyota rental car, and he showed up in a Dodge Intrepid, American-made car for the luncheon. It was so funny because back in 1981, when they said, how did you feel out there running against Seiko, trying to chase them down? And I said, I probably had 100,000 UAW workers rooting for me because at that time, the Japanese cars were just eating our lunch in the marketplace. You know, the Japanese cars were high quality, long lasting. They just were doing everything better than us at that time. And I felt like, if it was an American against the Japanese, I had the United Auto Workers rooting for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was so funny to be in Atlanta and have him drive up in a Dodge.
That's a great story.
And I drove up in a Toyota Corolla or something, from a rental car. And we went in. Now, we didn't have sushi, but I forget what we had. But my goal is to, in the next 2 or 3 years, go over and find a sponsor and go visit with some of these runners and go to where they are.
Yeah.
Video, and like almost this is what he's doing now.
You know how we are in the US, we just kind of finesse it with our running. We finesse it. And in Japan, I think Seiko is running for his coach and his country. We ran for our country too. And but I just wanted to tell you a story. It's kind of sad. Seiko lost a son to cancer about 5 or 6 years ago.
I didn't know that.
And someone who really knew Seiko well was Tom Grill, because he worked for Digital over in Japan, and he knew him and had met the son. So when he passed away, Jack Foltz and we went to the BAA and we wrote a letter to Seiko, and it was sent by the BAA, to reach out to him and say, hey, we're really sorry.
Bill, you had a wonderful, so my first year that I was at the Boston Marathon, Adidas brought me in 1979, and you had, I believe, just a wonderful duel, and you took off on him.
He didn't know the course.
At Heartbreak Hill. Well, I never saw the course either till I ran it that day. I never saw the whole thing.
Well, you just came off a gold medal in the World Cross Country, right?
Well, but I wasn't. No, in '79 I didn't. But I watched you run. I was there in promotion for Adidas at the time, and you beat him that day. And I should have known that when you got away from him on Heartbreak Hill, and I tried to do the same thing 2 years later. I should have known that, being the samurai that he was, that he remembered you beating him there, and he probably practiced going up those hills. So when I made that move and I got to the top of the hill and I looked back and he was only 5 or 6 yards behind me, that's when I said, Houston, we may have a problem here. Because, when I didn't break him there and I knew what he was like, I said, oh, geez, I just laid my cards down on the table and I only got 6 to 10 yards on him.
You had a great race, Craig. You cranked out.